In 2024, I read 61 books. It was less than the prior years, but it's not about numbers. The books I read this past year, I rated on average way higher. I discovered so many great things and really enjoyed my time reading. And so here we are, 2025, with so many possible stories ahead of us. But for today, I wanted to have a look back and share my top 6 favorite books of the year. These might include specific book in series or whole series. I think they go hand in hand. So to start with, number 6, I read Burning God. This is the last book in the Poppy War trilogy. I know it's a controversial opinion. I think some people either love the series or really hate it. I had a really great time with it. I can understand the criticism and why some people might not enjoy it, but for me, I really enjoyed seeing the characters evolve through this very traumatic event that's happening, especially your main character, Rin. I think she's such an interesting character. You start to care for her even if she's done really horrible things and she's not a great person, but just because you see her grow and you see everything from her perspective, you really start to empathize with her for the position that she's been thrown in. Just seeing her kind of move forward from that, and also the stakes in the book of like, how do we even move beyond what's happening right now? Like, how are we going to get past this event? I think makes it a very intriguing book. It's very memorable. Number 5 is the Saint of Steel series by T. Kingfisher. I've read quite a few T. Kingfisher books last year, but this series really stood out to me. I think she's more known for Nettle and Bone, which is a really great book that I've read last year as well, but still preferred the series over Nettle and Bone. The Saint of Steel series basically follows a group of paladin after their god has died. These paladins are berserkers, so in previously their god would kind of guide them and control them to use them as fighters and warriors, and all of a sudden their god has disappeared, they've lost their purpose, and they've lost control over this side of them. That's quite dangerous. So the series kind of follows, each book is about a different paladin. It's a romance mostly, but there's also kind of a subplot of murder in the first few books. So it's quite entertaining. It still has that note of kind of gothic horror that T. Kingfisher really loves to put in her books. And it really deals with kind of mental health, finding your greater purpose. A lot of these paladins have, depression or PTSD from losing their god. And so seeing them kind of find new things to live for, finding friendship, finding love. They're pretty short books, and I think there's a comedy aspect to them. I found myself laughing multiple times, yet they still deal with pretty serious topics, and you get attached to those characters because you really get to see kind of their raw moments. And so I really enjoyed the series for that reason, and as well the little kind of murder mystery is really fun too. It's got a bit of horror. That series really stood out to me. Keeping in line with gothic horror, my number 3 book is Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reid. This follows a young witch. She lives with her 2 sisters and her very controlling father, and they're all witches, wizards, and her sisters are basically restricted to staying in the house. They're not really allowed to go anywhere without their father's permission. And so one night she finally gets the courage to go with her sisters and leave the house and sneak out, and they go to the ballet. And there she meets the main ballet dancer, and he's really like a prodigy. Everyone loves him. The ballet is what it is because of him. But they both have their troubles. After meeting a few times, they strike up this friendship, this love for each other. Now, at the same time, there's some pretty gruesome murders happening in the town. The book has some pretty heavy themes of mental health, abuse. It's a very atmospheric book. Um, it has a very prevalent romance line, but I wouldn't say it's a romance at all. It is very much a gothic horror, and I know that some people have been surprised by some things in the book, and so if you're sensitive to things, I definitely recommend having a quick look at the trigger warnings. I didn't find it too bad, but I know that that's a heavy criticism. In number 3, I have The Tower of Swallows. This is book number 5, I think, in the Witcher series. It was just a really fun book to see so much more of Ciri. There's one of the most epic battles I've read. It was so cool and so unique. I really enjoyed that, but just seeing more of Ciri and seeing her evolve as a character after going through quite a few things, it was a fresh change in the series. And as always, I really enjoyed the humor in the books. It's quite funny. At the same time, it's dark. And again, I think it's pretty character driven. We get to see them evolve through all these books, and I'm a big fan of that. So, and in number 2, I have the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden. This is a Russian folklore inspired book. It follows Vazia. It starts when she's quite young and sees her evolve as a young woman. And she basically has a gift and she's able to see these house spirits. And it's kind of at the same time when there's a lot of a push for Christianity and abandoning those house spirits because they're seen as evil. She has a pretty rebellious side. She's very hard to control. She's quite wild. And so it really follows her, and she meets Morozko, or Father Frost, or a version of him. And she's kind of set into an adventure to basically save this, this fictional Russia. So it is a historical fantasy. And again, it's one of those books that's very atmospheric. As you might see from this list, I'm a big fan of, having those atmospheric books where you just feel like you're in that universe with the characters, and seeing them evolve, seeing them change, getting to know them and care for them. And this is a series where you really get to do that with Vazia. She's quite a lovely character. I think she's really fun to follow, and she's brave. And in first place, we have the Farseer trilogy, especially Assassin's Apprentice. If you haven't guessed it by now, I really love books that are character focused, where you get to see the character grow and evolve over a long period of time. And you really get to do that with Fitz. I mean, you see him from a tiny little child growing into adulthood, and you really get to care for Fitz. You see that he just wants to be loved, and he wants friendship and family, and yet it's very hard for him to get those. And so you kind of see him slowly grow that family that he's always wanted, but so many obstacles get in his way. And so it's quite a sad story at times, and it's quite touching. I think there are so many beautiful moments in that series, and of course there's a lot of action going on, a lot of battle, a lot of little mystery going. And so it is the beginning of a much broader a world and universe, but it's those little moments in that series that just really get to and speaks to your human side and wanting the best for people. And so that's my number 1. I think it's one of my favorite series ever. It's really one of those books you look back on and it teaches you so many things about people, and also just has an emotional impact on you. So anyway, those are my top 6 books / series that I read in 2024. Again, so many opportunities for 2025. So we'll see what I get to read and what my new favorites will be. Please let me know what your favorites from 2024 were. If you have any recommendations for me based on that top 6, and I will see you next time. Bye.